Good day, systems thinkers. Welcome to our lesson 2 in systems thinking. So as what let's have a short review in the past lesson. So in the past lesson, I discussed the introductory to systems thinking. We define what the system is, ano yung mga characteristics ng system, ano yung dapat na present sa isang sistema, and then what systems thinking is. Ayan. So, and how it helps us in analyzing and understanding our life better. And also, ano-ano yung system structure. So, if you can remember, a system must have an element. So, kailangan may element sa isang system. Kailangan may interrelationship. And kailangan may purpose or may goal yung isang system. So, ngayon, we will move on to our next topic, which is the stocks and flows. Ito medyo mas mabilis lang siya. And I consider this as an additional lang before we will proceed to different diagrams that we're going to do in systems thinking. So, now let's define what is a stock. Okay, so stock is a foundation of any system. So, when we say foundation, of course, this is the element. Now, bakit siya pundasyon? So, it could, parang walang system. Parang ito yung, if you can remember, elements is the most visible part of the system. So, madali lang siyang makita, and so, kapag walang element, wala talagang sistema. So, walang stocks, walang system. So, this is the element that we can see. These are the tangible elements. Feel, count, measure at any given time. Next is, it is a change, it can change over time through the actions of a flow. Okay, so that's, yun yung relationship niya with the flow. So, let's focus muna sa stocks. So, ang stock, this is a term in systems thinking ha. So, I know there are some term na stocks in the trading, di ba? Pero ito, in stocks, in systems thinking, it represents the elements that are tangible. What are those? For example, sa isang bangko, yung pera. Okay? Tangible yan. You can see that, you can feel, you can count it, and you can measure it. Students in school, we can say that the BSBA 2A, BSBA 2B, 2C, ito yung count nila. Okay, we can count them. We can see them. Water in a bathtub, you can measure it. Ilang liters, ilang galon ang meron dyan sa bathtub na yan. Population in a community, you can count them. Merong 1,000,000 sa isang particular municipality na ito. And inventory in a company. So those are some examples of the stocks. Again, these are the elements that we can see, we can feel, we can count, and we can measure at any given time. Now, how about the flow? Sabi dito, ang stocks daw, it can change over time through the actions of a flow. Pwedeng mabawasan, pwedeng madagdagan ng stock, depende sa flow. Now, what is a flow? This is the action or change that influence the stocks. For example, filling and draining. For example, may timba, finil mo yung timba, so dumami yung tubig kasi nag-fill ka. Ngayon, kapag ka dinrain mo, halimbawa, ang bathtub, tinanggal mo yung, yung takip, ayan, dinrain mo siya, so mababawasan yung stocks, mababawasan yung tubig. In population, births and deaths. Siyempre, kapag may pinanganak, nadagdagan yung population, nadagdagan yung stock ng population. And then, death, siyempre kapag may namatay, nababawasan yung stocks or nababawasan ang population. Next, purchases and sales. Sa inventory sa isang company, may bumili or bumili ka ng another set ng inventory, nadagdagan ng inventory mo. Nakabenta ka, nabawasan yung inventory mo. Growth and decay, halimbawa sa puno in a forest. For example, merong tumubo, that's another additional stock in that forest. Ngayon, merong nabulok, merong namatay tapos nabulok na siya. So, nabawasan yung stock in a forest. Deposits and withdrawals, ayan, sa peras, in a company, or in a bank. Kapag ka naglagay ka ng pera mo dyan, nadadagdagan yung stock of money mo. Kapag nag-withdraw ka, nabawasan yung stock of money mo. It's the same with the successes and failures. So, that is the flow. Again, si stock, it is the elements that we can see, feel, count. These are the tangible elements. Si flow naman, ito yung pangyayari sa stocks that it can either madagdagan yung stock or mabawasan yung stock. Okay? So, in systems thinking, we are, makaka-encounter tayo ng maraming diagrams. Actually, in our next lesson, we will discuss causal loop diagrams, feedback loops. So, we will discuss all of those. Bigyan ko na kayo ng konting idea. Okay, so when we encounter a diagram, mostly ganito siya. So yung stock, or yung square, it represents the stock. Okay, again, these are the elements that we can see, feel, measure, count at any given time. Now, si faucet, okay, this represents the inflow and the outflow. For example, may nakikita tayong clouds dito. Yung inflow clouds, ito yung pinanggagalingan ng stock. Si outflow clouds, dito lumalabas yung stocks. Ibig sabihin, pag merong nanggaling mula dito, madadagdagan yung stock mo. Kapag may lumabas mula dito, mababawasan yung stocks mo. So, yun. So, sa inflow, these are the events na nangyayari to produce or to, na ang effect niya is madagdagan yung stock. Outflow naman, events na nangyayari para mabawasan yung stocks mo. So, for example, inflow ng cash, di ba? Pag sinabi may inflow ng cash, madadagdagan yung stock mo. May outflow ng cash, nabawasan yung pera mo. So, yun. So, it's simple, okay? Now, let's look at an example. Okay, for example, what is our stock? Ang stock natin ay mineral deposit. Okay, now, yung inflow, we don't have any idea where it came from or what happens below the ground to produce it. Unless you are a miner, nagmimina ka. So, alam mo yan. Pero, let's consider that the inflow is the mountain o kaya ilalim ng lupa. Now, and we don't know what happens below the ground para ma-produce yung mga mineral na yon. So, let's not talk about that anymore. For example, you did mining. Okay, in this case, the outflow event is the mining. So, dahil nagmina ka, yung mineral deposits ngayon ay nababawasan. Okay, next. Okay, so this is medyo kumbaga parang dito medyo simple-simple pa siya. Let's proceed to maraming inflow and maraming outflow events. For example, water in reservoir or water in a dam. Okay, so yung water sa dam, so these are the inflows. Ano yung mga nangyayari para magkaroon ng maraming tubig sa dam or madagdagan? Syempre, dapat umulan. Diba? Kaya kapag 'di ba El Nino, parang mag-pray tayo for the rain para madagdagan yung dam natin at hindi siya matuyo. What else? River inflow. So yun. So we minsan iniisip lang natin kasi sa ulan lang, pero we don't know na yung mga rivers, they are connected to the dam. Tapos syempre kapag tuyo din yung river, they cannot supply or they cannot flow in the dam. Pero kung ano naman yan, kung overflowing din naman ang water sa river, so they can supply for the dam. So, again, kapag may rain at may river inflow, nadadagdagan ang supply ng tubig sa dam. Next, paano naman nababawasan? For example, nag-evaporate, diba? Alam niyo naman sa water cycle, nag-evaporate yung tubig, nababawasan yan talaga. And what else? Discharge. For example, syempre kailangan natin ng water sa faucet. Kailangan mag-supply ng dam ng tubig sa mga mamamayan. So, nababawasan ngayon ang water in the dam or water in the reservoir. Next, okay? So again, etong situation na to, ito yung stock, maraming inflow events at maraming outflow events. It's the same in the systems in a company, okay? Now, how about this? Ito naman parang dugtong-dugtong yung stocks. So, it could happen na yung inflow sa iba, yung inflow sa iba is outflow sa'yo. O kaya outflow sa'yo, magiging inflow sa iba. For example, wood in living trees. Okay? So, for example, forest yan. Tapos, yung forest, di ba, nagdugtong pa tayo dito. Si forest, marami siyang stocks ng trees. Ngayon, yung trees na yon, may stocks siya ng woods. Ayan. So, ang inflow ng woods in living trees ay tree growth. So, syempre, kapag merong tumubong puno, madadagdagan ang stocks ng wood in living trees. Now, ano ang outflow events na pwedeng mangyari para mabawasan yung woods in living trees? Of course, logging. Ayan. Pinutol mo yung puno. So, yun. So, syempre, bawas na yun. Next, tree deaths. Halimbawa, naturally, namatay lang tong puno or nagkaroon ng virus, may bacteria na naging cause para mamatay yan. So, nababawasan yung woods in living trees. Okay? Now, again, sabi ko nga kanina, this is an outflow for this particular stock, pero inflow siya to another stock. which is the lumber inventory. So, syempre, halimbawa, ang company ko or ang business ko is nagsusupply ako ng lumber. Ngayon, yung mga logging, ayan, yung logging itself is outflow sa woods in living trees, outflow siya sa forest, pero inflow siya sa stocks ko. Ngayon, so meron ako lumber inventory, meron ako ngayong ititinda, so lumber sales would be my outflow. Okay? And so on and so forth. Okay? So what's the point in this? The second stock that we discussed is there are some in the first one, merong pwedeng isa na inflow event at isang outflow event that could influence your stocks. Meron din na maraming inflow events at maraming outflow events that could influence your stock. And next one is, there are some stocks that are connected. Diba? Ito yung sinabi ko in the past lesson, that interdependent system. So, they are connected to one another. So, it could happen na yung inflow mo could be an outflow sa iba, or yung outflow mo could be an inflow sa another stock. Okay? Next. Okay, so let's proceed to this. It's just a simple. For example, there is a bathtub. So, yan. So, yung bathtub, meron kang stock dyan na water. Siyempre, di ba? So, kapag binuksan mo yung faucet, that would be the inflow event. Tinanggal mo yung, I forgot the term. Okay. Tinanggal mo yung pinaka drain. Okay. Pinlog mo pala muna. So, okay lang, walang outflow. Pero kapag tinanggal mo yung drain na yon, it will flow. So, yun. So, mababawasan yung water in a tub. Imagine a bathtub filled with water. Tapos, naka-plug yung drain niya, nakapatay yung gripo ng inflow. Okay, patay na to, pero naka-plug ito. So, ibig sabihin, steady lang siya. Okay, it's unchanging, it's undynamic. And, there are some system that is like that. So, walang inflow, walang outflow. We can call that a boring system. Okay, so, it's unchanging, it's not dynamic system. So here, I'm going to show you a behavior over time graphs. Okay, so for example, ayan, tinanggal natin yung stock of water, or tinanggal natin yung plug in the bathtub. So for example, 50 gallons of water yung meron dyan. After 2 minutes, meron na lang siyang 40 gallons. After 4 minutes, meron na lang 30 gallons. 6 minutes, 20 na lang. 8 minutes, 10. After 10 minutes, wala nang tubig sa bathtub. Okay? Now, what are behavior over time graphs? So, yung graphs na ganito, this is being used in many businesses to learn whether the system itself is approaching a goal or limit. Okay? For example, this is your, halimbawa, inventory nyo. Okay? This is your initial inventory. After, for example, 2 days, okay, nabawasan na yung inventory nyo by 10. After 4 days, nabawasan ng 20. So, ganun siya. So, for example, I am a milk tea owner. Halimbawa, ito ang aking inventory ng winter melon na milk tea. So, yun. So, after 1 day, ayan, 50 na servings ng winter melon yung meron ako. After a day, naging 40 na lang siya. After 2 days, naging 30. After 3 days, naging 20. Okay? So, we can now see, ayan, if your system itself or yung business strategy na ginagawa mo is effective, is it approaching its goal? Ang goal mo ba after 5 days or 10 days, maubos na lahat ng winter melon na flavor nyo? If it is approaching it, okay, how quickly? Gaano kabilis? Pwede kasing halimbawa, after a day, nabawasan ng 10. After 2 days, nabawasan agad siya ng 30. Okay? And so on and so forth. So, yun. So, in that case, medyo maiiwasan mo na maubusan ka ng stock for this particular product. Or, iiwasan mo naman din na mag-overstock ka naman. Halimbawa, mabagal lang yung pagbaba niya. Mabagal lang yung, or konti lang, hindi masyadong binibili itong particular flavor na to. For example, taro. Joke lang. Medyo mabili yung taro. Pero halimbawa, in my store, sa milk tea store ko, medyo hindi siya mabili. So, halimbawa, after 1 day, 5 lang yung nabawa. So, the graph would be here. pababa. After 2 days, 10 lang yun nabawas. After 3 days, 15. After 4 days, 20. So, yun. So, in that case, malalaman ko ngayon na, yung winter melon ko, ganito siya kabilis maubos, whereas si taro ko, hindi. So, mas madaming beses akong bibili ng um, winter melon flavor kesa sa taro. So, ganun siya. So, again, we use behavior over time graphs to learn whether the system is approaching its goal or limit. Kung na-approach niya yung goal niya or yung limit niya, how quick naman ito. So, yun. So, now, for example, you open the faucet. So, ganito naman, for example, yung nangyari. You open your faucet. So, may inflow sa bathtub. Ngayon, inopen mo din yung plug. Okay? For example, when the tub is about half empty, halimbawa, this is your gallon. For example, 60 gallons yan. Ngayon, bababa na siya. Nung kalahati na, nung nag-30 na siya, in-open mo naman yung faucet mo. So, yun. So, what will happen? Turn on the inflow faucet so that the rate of water flowing in is just equal to that flowing out. Ngayon, yung pumapasok na stocks, yung inflow na stocks nyo ay equal na lang sa lumalabas. Ang tawag dito, state of dynamic equilibrium. What does it mean? Its level does not change although water is continuously flowing through it. Ano niyan, ma'am? Anong implication? For example, si milk tea ulit. Halimbawa, si winter melon, kalahati na lang. Tapos nung kalahati na lang, bumili na ako ng bagong stocks. Okay? So, for example, ang nabawas 30 for 30 na servings. Okay? Ngayon, bumili ako ng another stock na for 30 ulit. So, kahit na nababawasan si stocks ko, dahil continuous ang inflow, ayan, equal na lang siya. So, there's equilibrium. Now, okay, how about this? You turn the inflow faucet down some more will lead to a decrease in the water level. For example, nilakasan mo yung in this case, nilakasan mo yung tubig sa faucet, it will increase the water level kahit may outflow. Ngayon naman, halimbawa equal lang sila, equal lang yung lakas ng tubig sa pressure na outflow ng tubig, so equal lang yan. So there's dynamic equilibrium. Now, kapag ka naman niles mo lang yung inflow ng faucet, tapos malakas ang tagas or malakas ang labas ng tubig, so syempre it will decrease the water level. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Anong implication? So, the rule is, if the inflows are greater than the outflows, okay, there is a higher level of stock. Kapag mas malakas inflow kaysa sa outflow, syempre, mas maraming stocks. For example, personal money. Halimbawa, yung pera mo sa bangko. This is your money in the bank. Syempre, ang natin dyan, ang inflow natin dyan, pag nag-deposit ka, interest, ayan, so nag-save ka, nilagay mo dun sa bank account mo. Now, your outflow would be, nag-withdraw ka. Halimbawa, dinamihan mo ang save mo. So, save ka ng save ng baon mo, and everything. Tumataas yung interest, so nadadagdagan din yan. Kesa sa gastos mo. Okay? Mas mataas ngayon yung pera mo. Mas marami ka ngayong pera. Okay? Now, what if greater naman ang outflow? So, the inflows is less than the outflows. There is a lower level of stock. Ano naman yon? Halimbawa, pera mo ulit sa bangko, mas marami yung gastos mo kaysa sa nilalagay mo sa pera mo sa bangko. Mas konti na ngayon yung pera mo sa bangko. It's the same in your business. Mas maraming gastos, mas maraming expenses kaysa sa income, konti yung pera ng negosyo mo. Next. Okay? What if naman, ma'am, inflows are equal to outflows? Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba yung water in a tub, yung bukas ng gripo mo is same lang sa pressure ng plug mo, ng pagde-drain mo, there will be no change in the level of stocks. For example, pera mo sa bangko ulit, ayan, your inflows would be save, pagsisave mo, pagde-deposit, interest, pagtitipid, ayan. So, sinisave mo siya lahat dito. Tapos, yung expenses mo, nililimitahan mo lang, they are just equal. Okay? Walang mag-change sa level of stock mo. Kahit may lumalabas sa'yo, hindi ka nauubusan kasi the inflows are just equal to the outflows. It's the same in a system. Kapag mas mataas ang inflow mo sa isang sistema, sa isang negosyo, kaysa sa outflow, syempre, mas marami kang stocks. Kapag naman mas mababa ang inflow mo, mas madami ang lumalabas, syempre, mas konti yung stock mo. Kapag naman equal lang, bumibili ka ng, halimbawa, nagkalahati na yung stock mo in a particular product, tapos, bumili ka ulit. So, inequal mo lang. Siyempre, there will be no change in the level of stock. So, yun. So, that is the rule in systems. Now, let's discuss these statements that is parang reality ng stocks and flows. First one is, a stock can be increased. Pwede mo daw madagdagan yung stocks mo by decreasing its outflow rate. For example, pwede mong pwedeng dumami yung pera mo sa pamamagitan ng pagbabawas ng expenses mo. Okay, or ng outflow rate mo. As well as by increasing its inflow rate. Or dadagdagan mo yung ipon mo para dumami yung pera mo. Okay, what's the reality with that? Ibig sabihin, there is more than one way to solve things relating to stocks and flows and relating to your system itself. Okay? Next. Let's have an example. How can you prolong the life on an oil-based economy? So, syempre, medyo mahirap ma-renew ang oil, 'di ba? So, how can you prolong? Paano mo mapapahaba yung buhay lalo ng mga economy na ang gamit talaga nila is oil? You can, number one, again, decrease the outflow or increase the inflow. How can you increase the inflow? Hanap ka ng iba pang oil deposits or ng new source ng oil. Or, decrease the outflow, burn less oil. Huwag kayong masyado gumamit ng oil. Diba? Para ma-prolong mo yung life ng oil-based economy. Next, how can a company can build a larger workforce? Okay? Again, you can increase the inflow, decrease the outflow. Increase the inflow, mag-hire ka pa ng maraming tao. Lalaki yung workforce mo. Or, decrease the outflow, i-reduce mo yung rate ng quitting and firing. Hindi ka masyadong magtatanggal ng mga trabahador mo or gagandahan mo yung HR service mo, yung kumbaga papalakasin mo yung HR department mo para hindi konti lang yung mag-resign or hanggat maaari wala talagang mag-resign in your company. So yun, so you can build up your larger workforce with that. Ngayon, both have different costs, di ba? When you hire more people, may cost yan. Pag merong nag-resign, it will still cost the company. So yun. So again, it will have both of them will have different costs. So kailangan mo lang pamilian ngayon which is better or which is less ang cost compared to the other options. Next, how can you boost the wealth of a factory business or your business itself? How can you increase the inflow? Syempre, you will invest, ayan, to build up larger machines and factories na pwedeng paglagyan ng inyong mga stocks. Or you will decrease the outflow. I-decrease nyo yung rate in which yung factories and machines nyo ay masisira, magbe-breakdown or madi-discard. Again, both of them have different costs. May cost yan kapag bumili ka ng bagong machine, di ba? Para syempre, mas marami kayong magawa. May cost din, syempre, para ma-preserve or ma-maintain yung existing na machines ng factory nyo. So, yun. So, now, okay, so that is one of the reality. Again, there is more than one way to solve any problems relating to stocks and flows. Number two, okay, another reality is stocks generally change slowly, even when the flows into or out of them change suddenly. Okay, for example, in the bathtub, we cannot measure kasi na, yung, yung pressure ng faucet or ng mga lumalabas na tubig is same lang sa lumalabas na tubig sa faucet is same lang sa lumalabas sa drainage. Okay? Meron pa din talagang parang may differences pa rin talaga kahit paano mo siya tingnan. Kasi generally, Si stocks ay it changes slowly kasi si flow, ayan, most of the time um it's changing suddenly. Hindi it will not si flow or yung inflow or outflow mo will not change the stocks agad-agad. Kailangan pa nila ng period of time to adjust. That is why? A stock takes time to change because flows take time to flow. Ngayon, si stocks, it will allow inflows and outflows. Kaya, 'di ba? Ma'am, ano to, 'di ba? So, we can now see na ang reality is hindi siya agad-agad na pag nilakasan mo yung tubig or nilakasan mo yung inflow mo, it will change the stocks agad. Okay, meron siyang delay talaga, meron siyang buffer. Si stocks, it will allow inflows and outflows to be decoupled and to be independent and temporarily out of balance with each other. Ano talaga, parang normal that the stocks, that the inflow and outflow would be out of balance. Parang at some point, hindi sila mag-equal. Hindi siya palaging state of dynamic equilibrium. That is why the people, they formulated or they thought, kaya dahil nga alam nila that the inflows and outflows are really out of balance with each other, they discovered stock maintaining mechanism. Okay? What is stock maintaining mechanism? Stock maintaining mechanism, these can act as delays, they can act as the buffers, shock absorbers in a system. For example, in this case, it will really take a long time to fill for a lake or to a pond to fill up. Halimbawa, yung tree sa forest, hindi naman siya nag-grow overnight eh. Sobrang tagal bago mag-grow ng isang puno. So for example, in this case, ay kailangan natin ng tubig, 'di ba? So we are getting our inflow of water to the, halimbawa, dam, ayan. Kaso lang, halimbawa, nagkaroon ng outflow, nagkaroon ng tagtuyot. O kaya naman, pwedeng El Nino or La Nina, pumaha naman, 'di ba? So what happens there? Kailangan pa din natin ng tubig whatever happens. Kailangan natin ng pandilig, kailangan natin ng panggamit ng tubig natin every day. So nag-formulate tayo ngayon ng tank, which is the stock maintaining mechanism. So we preserve or we put our stocks there. Now, what the anong implication yan? If we want to change a system, if we want something to happen, it will not happen or hindi mo makikita yung result faster than you think it will happen. It will really take time, a period of time to change something, to do something in that system. For example, sa isang water, okay, di ba, ang problem ngayon, water pollution. So, there are many contaminants in a water. Yun naman, hindi naman yung nag-accumulate pagkatapon mo pa lang ng basura agad-agad, meron na agad bacteria. No. Simula pa noon na nagtatapon ng basura doon, and then, hindi, kumbaga na-stock doon yung basura and then nag-form ng contaminants and then nag-take ng decades or centuries bago siya nalinis. Kaya tuloy, nandoon na yun. Kumbaga parang ito na yung nangyari. Now, when we try to solve the problem in a water pollution, what we will do is, madalas, yung mga reactive, yung mga for a shorter period of time na lang. We want it to happen instantly. Ang problema na ito sa isang sistema ay nag-accumulate, hindi lang naman ng isang taon, hindi lang naman ng ilang araw, but problema na siya talaga bago ka pa ipanganak. Naintindihan ba? So again, the reality is, if you want to change the system, it won't happen faster than you think it will happen. Minsan, halimbawa, you're a politician, after na ng term mo, tsaka nagbunga lahat ng pagpapagal na ginawa mo. Okay? Because that's the reality in a system. Sometimes it may take years, sometimes it may take decades, sometimes it may take centuries. Now, okay, so most of the time, kasi hindi equal ang inflows and outflows. For example, sa isang barangay, yung isang barangay, they are using 500 liters of gasoline every day. Kung ikaw si gasoline company, halimbawa na lang, 500 liters of gasoline sa ibang barangay, ganito. Sa isang bansa, for example, sobrang daming gasoline yung ginagamit nila everyday. Pero, as the all-producing firm, ako yung nagbebenta, hindi ko naman yun mapoproduce ng isang araw. So, what will I do? I-stock ko siya. Okay? So, kayo, kailangan nyo to ngayong araw. Sa ako, meron akong available niyan sa stocks ko. Okay? So, we cannot produce the same amount of particular stock in a day. So, kung halimbawa na lang, gumagawa ka ng mga um, furnitures, okay, through lumber or wood. Every day, 100 na lumber yung ginagamit mo. But you cannot get 100 trees every day, lalo na kung paubos na yung trees doon. So, anong gagawin natin? We will now, we will now produce or we will now think of a stock maintaining mechanism para hindi tayo maubusan dahil hindi equal ang inflows at ang outflows. So what we will do is we will stock it. We will create a stock maintaining mechanism to act as delays, to act as our buffer and shock absorber in our system. Okay? So there will be a group activity, but I want you all to think about this. So what do you think are the other stock maintaining mechanism? Ayoko magbigay na masyado maraming example for you to think of more stock maintaining mechanism that is present in our country today. Okay, so again, that's the reality in stocks and flows. Number one is there is more than one way to solve a system problem. You can either increase the inflow or decrease your outflow. Next one is see outflow and inflow, they are really out of balance with each other. Hindi talaga sila pantay palagi. So what you will do is you will form a stock maintaining mechanism para maiwasan mo yung out of stock ka. Okay? So again, just think about it. So what do you think is a stock maintaining mechanism that is present in our world today? Okay, so write it down on the comment section. So thank you so much for listening. This is just a short lesson, but I hope you learned a lot through this. Bye! See you on the next videos!